terrorist does not get human rights.
The left thinks that I'm a hardcore Sanghi. The right wing thinks I'm a hardcore Librandu, is the word that they use on me.
People who live in a dictatorship have as much of a right to life as people who live in a democracy. People have forgotten how Khalistan terrorism was. Even though the Kashmir insurgency just ended about 3-4 years back, people have forgotten what it used to be like. Right? So we're in a much, much, much better position from there. 8 or 24 of our Jawans were killed and they were brought like wild boars that had been hunted, on poles. Shikar ko kaise le jate hain? Ek pole mein fir haath aur pair bandh ke. That is how they were transported to India without any respect. Posture on Israel Palestine is that Israel it is not a pro-Israel posture. It is a very strong counter-terrorism posture that recognizes the right of every country to not just fight terrorism, but to annihilate terrorism. I mean, you could tell from the posture of the legs that they'd been brutally raped. Legs don't get splayed like the way Shani Luke's body was taken out from the back of the truck. I love Israel. I love Afghanistan. I think my most cherished memories are in fact from Afghanistan and North Korea. Hello Bhavesh, we love you. If you want to sponsor this podcast, look at my dear friend Naimisha. Please sponsor her. Thank you.
And yaar, Ola se surge rate hata do yaar. Har cheez mein surge dal dete ho.
Har cheez mein surge kyun dalte ho? There was this guy who got caught. He sacrificed his niece and nephew to a goddess in the forest. Do you remember that episode? No problem. I sacrifice you for a cold winter.
I hope I reach home safely, guys.
Yeah, if she doesn't, don't blame me.
Hi everyone, welcome to Desi Dialogues with Naimisha. Today I have someone who is not just an expert in geopolitics and international affairs, but also with his humor and punchline. Do you know who I'm talking about? Someone who spent 40 odd days in a jail from my state. And I really hope he doesn't take out the revenge here. I really hope so. Come, let's talk to none other than the cool man from international politics and the defense sector. My favorite, Abhijit Iyer Mitra.
Thank you for having me and thank you for the lovely jail stay also. बहुत अच्छा खाना मिला वैसे jail में हम.
So are you planning to visit the jail again?
No.
We can do the food tourism with you.
Yeah, actually we can do
jail
food tourism.
Too, maybe.
It was the smell in the jail that was off-putting. Khana bahut acha tha actually. People think, they're under this impression that in jail you only get dal chawal or wo bhi feeki dal chawal. In jail they serve you like chicken twice a week, fish twice a week, anda twice a week. And yeah, so I think it's like if they could just get rid of the smell, it'll be fine.
Yeah, we'll put it up with the government.
Yeah, please do that.
And then you would make the honorary visit to go there again. Do you want to?
I can be there as a celebrity former inmate. Alumni reunion. Jharpada alumni reunion. Pata hai, us jail mein there are lots of serial killers.
Yeah, I'm aware about it.
So the first guy I made friends with, so the guy who was employed to clean my room, he had apparently killed or raped some 13 women or something like that.
That's scary.
Yeah. And then another guy I met had apparently chopped his wife into 200 pieces and was smuggling her out in tiffin boxes. And the scary thing was his food used to come from home in tiffin boxes every morning.
You know what's scary? Scary is you narrating me this incident after the introduction that I have put up. Now I'll be a bit more careful about this.
इसमें क्या है? मैंने थोड़ी ना किया था, उन लोगों ने किया था. But it was like, I've never met like serial killers, yeah? So it was like quite interesting talking to them also.
Yeah, I mean the mindset and where it comes from.
Yeah.
Abhijit, there's something that really connects both of us. And that is, the left thinks that I'm a hardcore Sanghi. The right wing thinks I'm a hardcore Librandu, is the word that they use on me. And that leftist girl, that liberal girl. I grew up in a family where my mom was a communist and my father was in Vidyarthi Parishad.
Exact opposite of me. It's my mom who's the right wing and my dad who's the left wing.
So I think both of us, I grew up reading Karl Marx and Guruji Golwalkar, and I'm sure the same thing would have been in your house. You have read both things. And that helped me out form my opinions in more of a balanced, structured way. I call the right, whatever is right as right, whatever is wrong as wrong. But and bashed from all the sides. How do you entirely balance it? Because you proclaim to be a right-winger. So how do you see this entire tension as?
But there are large parts of the right wing that hate me also, which is, see, I've never expected or wanted approval from anybody else. I've got a very internal locus. So there are some people whose approval I want, and I have that. I don't need more approval, right? So agar it's like if somebody likes my taste or they don't like my taste, भाई मेरा क्या लेना देना, मेरा पैसा है, मेरा taste है. I mean, it's not that you're paying me. So if my employer says tone it down, sure, I'll tone it down. But nobody else has the right to tell me to tone it down or whatever, right? So I'm like completely, almost anodyne. I'm inured to other people's opinions.
Does it not affect you? Like personally, there are times and you can choose not to answer this because it's very personal to you, and I understand there are times when we don't want the old memories to hit. A lot of time, even when the NIT issue was going on, the medical exam, I did put up my opinion on certain things and I got rape threats in my inbox. I think you can, because your ma'am has been through far more, not many people who know. Acid was thrown at her, and at that point of time, she being a woman and in the political leadership in South and facing this, I really feel differences of opinion has gone to gutters in India. How do you see this?
It's not just in India, I think it's across the world.
Of course.
And we realized this sometime in the early 2000s because the first person to, and it's because of the internet, it's because of social media really, right? We realized this in 2000, when I was working on a counter-terrorism project, 2001 or 2, I think it was. What we realized was us time mein dark net karke kuch tha, I mean, even now it's there. It's just that not many people access it. But there was the dark net where Al-Qaeda used to use it to recruit. And what we realized about the dark net, studying all the translations from Arabic, was these were freaks from their villages who had very extreme opinions that even in their villages they'd been ostracized. And they would form this sort of imagined online community, which became a very core recruiting ground for Al-Qaeda. ISIS took it to the next level, but that was in the age of social media. This was in the pre-social media age. So you not just had to have a very extreme opinion, you also needed to be computer literate. So that acted as a vetting mechanism in a sense, where you had to enter the darknet and find all these rooms and be chatting on them and things like that, right? And I guess we kind of saw what happens out there, that social media, it undeniably democratizes. Let's be clear about this. The problem of democracy is the poisoning of Socrates. Yeah. So if you remember that, this is why we all became republics and did not stay. It was the Roman Republic, not the Roman democracy. Precisely because of what happened to Socrates. Because when everybody votes on everything, it's a recipe for chaos and anarchy, right? Not that I'm saying Twitter should become a republic or whatever and people should be chosen to give their opinions for a certain Jamaat or a certain Qaum or whatever. But essentially what you have is a sort of social media replaying of the poisoning of Socrates. It's also a place where you see that sort of Al-Qaeda, ISIS extremization happening. It's the extreme poles that capture the narrative. And because about 99% of Markandeya Karju was right, but he wasn't just right about India. 99% of any populations are idiots. They tend to...
Even the Donald Trump thing, that guy, I think he was 16 or 17, he just went to shoot him in his ears, and the entire thing is happening all over the world.
Yeah. So it's not just in India. It's the center has collapsed across the globe. Everywhere it is polarized into extreme left or extreme right. You try to sort of maintain a balance, and so in some things I'm quite left-wing. So I'm quite progressive in that sense that I believe social change needs to be shoved down people's throats. In that I'm quite different from the Sangh, because the Sangh is fundamentally conservative. I'm more on the Savarkar side of things than I'm in the Hedgewar or Golwalkar side of things, because they believed that society needs to be gently co-opted bottoms up to accept social change. We saw that with the decriminalization of homosexuality. It was gently, the consensus was created from the ground, and the government said, we don't care, we leave it up to the courts. Savarkar, of course, believed that change should be shoved down people's throats. So he was also quite leftist in that sense, progressive, really. We've seen this across the board. I don't see it as a worrying thing. I just see it as a natural progression that you need to find solutions to and deal with. I mean, we may never find a solution to it. You can't go back to a center because everybody now has an opinion on everything, is going to express it. And that's going to push leaders a certain way.
But, you just mentioned about this. But I also want to know, this is quite, makes me think a lot of time. Where do you see Bhagat Singh as? Was he left or was he right?
When you're a nationalist fighting a foreigner, it doesn't matter if you're left or right. It's just that you're fighting the foreigner. I think he died very young.
Martin.
So how do you even classify him? Because life is a journey through which you evolve. I used to be a communist and I evolved to, being where I am today. So there are some people, of course, who haven't evolved beyond the 7th century. They're still stuck in the 7th century, sartan se juda and shit like that. But that is not natural human growth, right? It's natural human growth is the older you get, the more nuanced you get. I think in some things your opinions become stronger, in some things your opinions become much more relaxed.
Yeah.
So it's
I think it also comes with a lot of your age and experiences. The more you see things from different perspective, like you are into more of war and you have seen it far more closely. Maybe you can guide me here a bit. I have a very conflicting opinion on this. As a child, my father always taught me, because I come from a media family, we don't write the word, they didn't used to write the word terrorist. Even BBC was following it for a long, Guardian was following. They say that one group's terrorist is other group's freedom fighter. And somewhere or other, I'm still stuck there. But of course, when it comes to India, my narrative changes. But still, I'm stuck. How do you see this?
So there's a very clear definition of terrorist. It's actually the Organization of Islamic Countries came up with it. And because they realized almost every one of them would be indicted under it, they dropped it. Yeah. The definition was very clear. First, it is non-state. So when people say state terrorism, it cannot be terrorism. When the state does it, it becomes a war crime. It is not terrorism. The second is the targeting. Is the targeting a government or military target, or is it civilians? The third is how indiscriminate it is. So, for example, if a military target is targeted, but there is collateral damage, that is not terrorism. Okay? But if civilians are targeted,
that's terrorism.
That is terrorism. Now, remember, all the boxes have to be ticked. It has to be a non-state actor targeting, indiscriminate targeting in or around. When a state does it, it is collateral damage if a military installation is targeted. If a civil installation is targeted, it becomes a war crime.
War crime, yeah.
When a non-stater targets a military installation, I would personally say it is not terrorism, but any collateral ensuing from that becomes terrorism. And it strictly needs to be a military target. You can't target a government office, say the Directorate of Revenue or whatever. I know tax terrorism is a thing, but please don't.
I liked it.
Yes, please don't attack any revenue department or anything like that. But that is what defines terrorism, right? So you look at all our freedom fighters, kisko mara unhone? They did not indiscriminately kill people. Even the bomb that was thrown at Lord Hardinge, for example, it only injured Hardinge and his wife, right? You can say the wife was probably, but she was an official post. It was the Viceroy of India, right? It was an actual official post like the First Lady. Bhagat Singh ne kisko mara, right? So he didn't go around killing civilians. So he ticks one category, non-state, but he doesn't tick the other category, which is killing civilians and innocent people, right? So you can't classify him as a terrorist.
I can never classify him as a terrorist.
But this is why I feel
school.
this is why I feel that people like BBC, CNN, or whatever are very disingenuous, because a news organization should definitely know what the definitions of terrorism are.
Absolutely.
It's not like it's ambiguous or anything like that. So I don't know why they don't, because it doesn't matter what kind of state it is. People who live in a dictatorship have as much of a right to life as people who live in a democracy. So just because, terrorism is carried out against Assad doesn't make you a freedom fighter. Terrorism carried out even against Pakistan, even against the family of ISI, is terrorism. Not killing the ISI officer, okay, that is not terrorism. But if you're exploding bombs just aise-vaise in Pakistan or in a, say, ISI officer ki BB ke kitty party, that is very much terrorism.
There are a lot of time I think we are aware how the news-centric has become in the global space. They if that it's an attack on Hindu or something, or a minority, Hindu minority, it's told as something. It's an attack on people there. But where it is in a Muslim state or something, it's more of like, it comes up to be portrayed as there has been a targeted attack on Muslim. But it also keeps on differing when it comes to any, like, as a Hindu or somewhere.
Yeah. But, this is sort of... Look, there's been a general left-wing capture of all the arts. There's a reason for it. The right-wing generally, I've noticed, tends to be people who make money and actually have real jobs. They can't sit and pontificate over art, So, for example, a scientist will come, he'll look at all of this and he'll be like, chalo, let's do our work. A left-winger will come, he's like, oh my God, look at this. I think, the artiste is trying to convey the myriad shades of sexuality through the rainbow. And, these represent the turmoil, these spheres, they represent the turmoil in people's mind. And he'll actually get paid for writing this kind of crap art reviews, okay? So they monetize bullshit. A lot of it is bullshit. About 10% of it is real, but 90% of it is bullshit. And the problem with that is, historically, they have always controlled the sciences. Humanities has always controlled the sciences. Absolutely. They will always control the sciences. And that is what they're doing with all this gender nonsense, right? Giving kids puberty blockers. When I was a little kid, I didn't realize I was gay.
What's a puberty blocker?
Puberty blocker is where it prevents you from attaining sexual maturity, so that you're surer about what your gender is, who you're attracted to, or you're sexless for a while kind of thing.
I mean, gender and sex are two different things again, but yeah.
They are. And what ends up happening is, we today have a whole load of quackery masquerading around as science, completely funded by corporate interest. And this is why, we're entering the age of digital feudalism, where, the state isn't powerful. It is all the robber barons, what we call corporate interests today, who are wagging the dog by the tail. Or the state by the tail in this case. I believe that's very dangerous. I think we need a reorientation of rights, especially in India, because, manufacturing, there are stages. There's manufacturing and then you go to services. Manufacturing requires a very strong state. Services, when you enter the information age, the state needs to take a back seat. And I don't think we get that very clearly. Because, one of the most clueless interviews I saw was Raghuram Rajan with my friend Ranveer Allahabadia. He was saying, I didn't say we don't require manufacturing. What I said was, we need to be like, because, he said we don't require manufacturing. Complete idiot statement to make. But the interview with Ranveer, which he thought acquitted him, made him look even more stupid. And I'll tell you why. He says, I want us to be like Apple. Apple doesn't manufacture anything. The chip is sourced from Taiwan. The body is sourced from China. The circuit board is sourced from Japan. I don't know where it comes from, but whatever. And what is Apple? It's $1 trillion company built on design. See, even to reach that stage, you first need to have gone through manufacturing to understand those things. See, that design aspect comes in much later. In the 40s and 50s, there was no such thing as Scandinavian chic or Scandinavian design, because the Scandinavian countries were very poor. Sweden became rich on peddling mall to both the Allies and the Axis powers. Denmark became rich on pork exports to both Axis and Allies. Norway similarly was the discovery of, the Swedes. Norway was the one country where when they said we want independence, the Swedes were like, yes, please, will you please leave us? Because we really don't want you with us. And then they discovered North Sea oil and became, a rich country. Finland became a rich country because it was exporting Western technology to the USSR because of that sort of very unique relationship it had between East and West during the Cold War. Today, there is Scandinavian chic and Scandinavian minimalism, and everyone wants Bang & Olufsen and, Swedish Orrefor's crystal lighting and this and that. Because they went through the manufacturing phase, it is like the Yas 39 Gripen fighter.
It's the backbone of any thing.
Saab just did the design. The engine is, American. The electronic warfare systems in the latest model are Israeli. There's all kinds of things coming in. So that's like saying, without going through that phase, you can't achieve the sort of design Apple iPhone and design a Yas 39 Gripen. But this is the state of our economic icons in this country. इससे बेहतर economics मेरा कुत्ता भी जाने.
That was an ouch.
I'm not called the Archbishop for nothing, Hannah.
I'll come to, like I last spoke to you when we were discussing about Afghanistan, and we had a lot of spaces and everything. And Afghanistan has been a very, very, very key integral part of my life. I think I'll always remain obsessed with Afghanistan to that extent that even on my wall it is written "Sanction Pakistan, Free Panjshir Valley." My DP was Ahmad Mashood for a very long time. A lot has changed over the years. People have forgotten Afghanistan. It's unfortunate. UN, I don't think I have words for UN. From Iran to Israel, Russia to Ukraine, Palestine, so many things has happened in the global order. Where do you see India at this point of time in this?
In a very good place. I mean, if people haven't realized, India's worst worries right now is, Mohammad Muizu said nasty things about us. He doesn't like the Lakshadweeps. Pakistan has been saying nasty things. Mind you, they're not able to really... Unka Khalistan terrorism bhi fail ho gaya, Kashmir terrorism bhi. Insurgency has failed. The tail end of the insurgency will always see sporadic terrorism. That's okay. Bangladesh is very upset with us. Are you seeing what's happening in the rest of the world? Iran is firing ballistic missiles. Terrorists are going into Israel and killing 1,500 people. America is in full-blown, almost on the verge of civil war. I mean, some kind of a civic civil war. It won't get into a military civil war. Compared to all of that, I don't think our position is all that bad. Are we as powerful and rich as we could be? No. But are we kind of insulated from a lot of this? Yes. Right. So overall, I would say our position is not bad at all. The best it could be under the circumstances.
I want to, interrupt you here because when you say it's not bad at all, Afghanistan has fallen, Bangladesh is gone, Sri Lanka is in a very different kind of a situation altogether. Nepal and us are more of like always having a banter kind of thing. Bhutan is something I can't completely trust with. Now we have Pakistan in the side. More than Pakistan, I see China behind Pakistan. How do we say that we are in a great position when our own neighborhood is in a...
Because, we're extrapolating this to the last 10 years. I'm 47 years old. And I remember a time when our relationship with all these countries was terrible. I remember the time when Rajiv Gandhi imposed a blockade of Nepal. Do you remember that? You weren't even born at that time.
I wasn't even born.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm young.
Yeah. And Girija Prasad Koirala, the mama and chacha of Manisha Koirala, used to say, he was the Prime Minister of Nepal. He used to say, we've got two dogs on our borders. The one to the north bites, but it doesn't bark. The one to our south keeps barking, but it doesn't bite. Okay. Right? So we used to have an extremely turbulent relationship with Nepal. I think people have forgotten in Bangladesh, this is after you were born, by the way, when the Bangladesh rifles were still a thing till they rebelled against Sheikh Hasina and she shut them down. There was cross-border firing where 8 or 24 of our Jawans were killed, and they were brought like wild boars that had been hunted, on poles. शिकार को कैसे ले जाते हैं एक पोल में फिर हाथ और पैर बांध के. That is how they were transported to India without any respect. Right? Sri Lanka, we've forgotten, thousands of our soldiers died in Sri Lanka maintaining peace out there. And, this was one of the unique things of the Gandhi family. That, when they proposed their solution for Palestine, the Israelis and the Palestinians who had never agreed to anything, agreed on one thing, that the Indian proposal was rotten. Similarly, the Buddhists and the Tamils, who were busy slitting each other's throats, never agreed on anything except Junius Jayawardene and Prabhakaran agreed that the Indians are rotten and they need to be kicked out. ये है Nehru Gandhi foreign policy. ठीक है? People don't realize how bad it was. We've grown up, our thing is the last 10 years where it was fairly stable. So this period of instability is seen as extremely unstable. People have forgotten how Khalistan terrorism was. Even though the Kashmir insurgency just ended about 3-4 years back, people have forgotten what it used to be like.
True.
Right? So we're in a much, much, much better position from there. Bangladesh will turn. We have lots of leverage on Bangladesh. Nepal is one of those countries which will, ye alat palat hote rahegi. This is, and I'll tell you this because I know this growing up. My mom, she used to be like, you need to get over this love for the Soviet Union you have. America is great. I think you should go to Disneyland and things. And my dad would be like, your mother's such a cretin. You need to be listening. You need to go to Moscow and watch the Bolshoi Ballet. So, when I wanted a new CD player, I would go tell my dad, Appa, Mummy is such a cretin. She has no appreciation for high European culture. She doesn't like me listening to opera or watching the ballet. I need you to buy me a CD player, please. Okay, son. And then I'd go to my mother and say, Mummy, Papa hates the West. He doesn't want me to be capitalist. I want to go to Disneyland, Mummy. Okay, beta.
How diplomatic was that?
I'm such a crook. But anyway, so because I do this, chote bache, now that I'm, financially self-sufficient. Yeah. So because I'm self-sufficient, I don't need to play these games. But till then, China and India like mummy and papa to Nepal.
Yes.
Idhar ki chugli udhar karna, udhar ki chugli idhar karna. It's natural. Every country it's not just our neighbors. Every country, India also plays this game. You think we're any different between Russia and America right now or China and America right now?
We went both the sides.
Yeah. So, this is, why should we deny to Nepal the privilege of playing the same game that we do? Of course, we do it in a more sophisticated way because we're richer. हम अभी किर्लोस्कर या महिंद्रा बन गए हैं, अभी अंबानी नहीं बने हैं. See, America is like Ambani. Okay. India is right now not even Kirloskar or this thing. We're more like ये ओला वाला या जोमेटो वाला कौन वो दीपी गोयल या
Devendra Goyal, Bhavesh Agarwal,
that type.
I mean, okay. I hope Bhavesh Agarwal doesn't watch this. I don't want him to put up a tweet again.
Oh, you can cut it off if he's... Hello, Bhavesh, we love you. If you want to sponsor this podcast, look at my dear friend Naimisha. Please sponsor her. Thank you.
And yaar, Ola se surge rate hata do yaar. हर चीज में surge डाल देते हो.
हर चीज में surge क्यों डालते हो? So, So, it's like that. I think the only country that forgot how to play that game and got carried away by its own Kool-Aid was Pakistan. They started believing their own bullshit. The other countries never did. In fact, our best relation constantly, without fail, even when they were kicking out Tamils, by the way, was Burma. Because nobody knows how to play China the way Burma does. Burma has played China better than Japan, better than Korea, better than America, better than Russia, better than anybody else. They sorted out their border issues with China, very close to... It was not exactly the McMahon line because, the McMahon line actually runs into Burma.
Into the Burma, yeah.
But they agreed on a border very, very early, almost exactly similar to the McMahon line, which prevented the massive loss of territories, because the initial Chinese claim was the whole of Shan province. But they settled it out. They were willing to talk to them and they settled it out. So, this thing that things are collapsing around us, I don't think there's ever been a generation that thought things weren't collapsing around them. We need to put it in historical perspective. The only country I'm actually worried about right now is Bhutan.
Bhutan, yeah.
I think they're completely duplicitous. This new king is
Yeah.
two-faced. He's playing all kinds of games. He has his attack dogs attack the government, which is something Bhutan never used to do. They used to maintain a very neutral stance on Indian politics, but this king and his lapdogs actively get involved in Indian politics. And their secret dealings with China, even though they don't officially recognize China. Right. So I think basically Bhutan ko wahi karna chahiye jo Sikkim ko karna tha.
Ouch. Again. You've given me a lot of ouch moments here.
यार ये भूटान कोई स्टेट होता है? Even the word Bhutan sounds like a fart. It's like Bhutan.
You just spoke about the neutral stand that so many countries also go through, and they put up the neutral stand. India has been the champion of putting up neutral stand everywhere. And I know I can never be a diplomat because I'll be a very bad diplomat. मैं जाके उधर सीधा युद्ध करने पे आ जाऊंगी. So I better never be a diplomat. With the Israel Palestine thing, they came up with a very neutral stand, which, though it was pro-Israel, but still at the same point of time, they were like peace-loving and everything. I am afraid of one thing, which a lot of people of West also comes down. I don't like people interfering in Kashmir issue with us, because that really belongs to us. Kashmir, the whole of Kashmir, everything belongs to India.
Yeah.
But at the same point of time, they can, people can come up and say that, they can speak about Azad Kashmir and so many other kind of things. Don't you think India is having a double face here? And we need to have let go of our neutral, kind of having a neutral perspective everywhere.
Personally, had I been a founding father of the country, I would have opted for absolute neutrality a la Sweden or Switzerland, which is don't give your opinion on anything, condemn nothing, support nothing, and focus on industrialization. Of course, Nehru couldn't do anything. He, mere state ko to usne kangal kar diya. West Bengal used to be the most developed state. In his lifetime, हम अमीरजादे से भिखारी बन गए रास्ते पे. Nehru single-handedly destroyed Bengal. Nehru did to Bengal what Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-un did to North Korea. Okay? Never make the mistake of assuming otherwise. He deindustrialized Bengal completely. Now, he believed in his great foreign policy God mind that, A, non-alignment, but B, that the Prime Minister of a Bhikari Desh could go around making gratuitous statements to superpowers and tell them how to conduct their affairs. So, Nehru it was all based on this personal ego. Non-alignment by itself is what? It's neutrality plus gratuitous commentary. Right? Why couldn't you just be neutral? जाके मुंह खोलने की क्या जरूरत थी? When you know the Soviet Union is worried you'll become an American stooge, and the Americans are worried that you'll become a Soviet stooge, why don't you just declare neutrality like, Finland or Sweden or Switzerland? No, क्योंकि you have a very high opinion कि तुमको जाके सबको ज्ञान पेलना है. Like I said, the Israelis and Palestinians, Nehru brought the Israelis and Palestinians together in agreeing to the fact that his plan sucked. But anyway, so foundationally, yes, it was flawed. But right now, I think we have recessed it to a posture of neutrality, in that we are even about everything. We condemn every escalation, we condemn every aggression, irrespective of who it comes from. And we're very clear that counter-terrorism is a right. So our entire posture on Israel Palestine is that Israel has it is not a pro-Israel posture. It is a very strong counter-terrorism posture that recognizes the right of every country to not just fight terrorism, but to annihilate terrorism. Israel has a right to win, just as India has a right to completely defeat and annihilate terror. Okay? A terrorist does not get human rights.
A terrorist doesn't get human rights. Agreed on that. Because, the moment you get into the path of taking away others' human rights, especially when we talk about war crimes, what we see with women and children, pregnant women, and small kids, I think you lose out your entire right to be a human at that same time.
You do. And what you see is this denialism that no sexual crimes took place on 7th October.
Yeah.
We just got back from from an Israel trip. And, some of the footage we saw of the first responders, obviously they're not allowed to share it because, there's this, initially I was very skeptical. I haven't seen burnt babies. I still haven't seen burnt babies, by the way. But, I mean, you could tell from the posture of the legs that they'd been brutally raped, Legs don't get splayed like the way Shani Luke's body was taken out from the back of the truck. That posture, I think even an idiot knows that your hip doesn't get disjointed like that. And why is it only the women that are like that, not the men? Right? It's for very obvious reasons. But there was one person whose name I know now, which I did not know, who was not just gang raped. Her genitals were mutilated with sharp objects. And in the video I saw, there were 3 large nails that were shoved in there. And you will still have these shameless people come, even after the UN has documented all the sexual crimes. You will still have people deny it. So India's position has been very clear on it. It is a matter of principle. You have a right to very strong counterterrorism, and you have a right not just to fight. Fight karke, ab you have to stop. No. You have a right to defeat terror.
Give it back. Because you're not only defeating terror, you're defeating something that has been injustice and wrong at so many levels.
It is psychologically sick. I mean, these people, there is this belief that somehow we shouldn't talk about the drugs that some of these 7th October terrorists took. But the quantities of meth and cocaine that were seized from them.
Definitely must have been.
But here's the thing. Only some of them took it. Almost 90% of them, when they committed all these horrific crimes, they had not taken these drugs.
How could their hands just be? How could people be this cold-hearted?
But people can be. I think the Holocaust teaches us that, There were ordinary people who were very loving fathers, who even, German upbringing was very strict. The child must be, the Von Trapp family and Sound of Music and all that. Austrian, but, Austrian discipline, I guess. Who would, without batting an eyelid, go and gas off women and children. Okay? There were members of the German military who knew that there were 0 consequences for refusing the order to shoot or bayonet Jews. There was not a single German soldier or officer ever punished for refusing an order to shoot a civilian.
Sadist pleasure.
And yet they did it.
Very sadist.
Sure, they were given toilet duty. Toilet saaf karo. Really, you would rather not clean a toilet and shoot a woman and a kid? And why do we talk about shooting women? Why is it okay to kill men? They killed women and children. Kya mard ke zindagi ka koi value nahi hai kya?
Kill anyone, even an animal. It's not fair
anyone,
enough.
Right? So, I mean, you can kill an animal for meat, but make it quick. Why do you want to make the animal suffer?
I'm a vegetarian. I'll refrain this topic.
Yes, okay. But you're killing vegetables.
No, we are not getting there, please.
Yeah, you are.
I'm done with this world saying all that all the time.
Yeah, you're a vegetable
My
murderer.
Pawan Khera topic just went it blew up the internet, and I know you're a non-vegetarian, so my question to Mr. Khera was very simple, that I would definitely have a problem if someone who is, bringing non-veg only to provoke me. And I think that's fair enough. You eat, तुम्हें घर पे जो करना मुझे मतलब है नहीं. My friends to eat non-veg. My point is, just don't provoke me by eating it in front of me intentionally to hurt me. You can sit on the other table. I can go to the other table. I'll do that for you. But I've been through the experiences where people have intentionally brought this pork ka bada sa rib and something, and I can't eat the whole day. I'll start vomiting.
Look, I think there is this thing that, अगर मैं अपने घर में खा रहा हूँ, अपने पैसे से खा रहा हूँ, exactly, nobody has the right to tell me what to do. Just like if you're fine with me in a co-working space with me eating my own mutton curry or whatever, I have no right to say, "ए खाएगी तो mutton ये ले," and waving it in your
बिरयानी से चिकन हटा देते हो, चावल तो खाई ले क्या रे? नहीं खाना है.
नहीं खाना है. So I think in a place like France, people know their civics very well. They know how a public space is negotiated.
But France is very difficult with that aspect. They hate vegans, I feel like.
Yeah, well, but if you are a vegan, you'll have a very easy time in Paris.
Yeah.
Or Nice or Toulouse or any of those places, right? So they don't shove things down your throat. In India, भाई लोग road rules ही नहीं जानते हैं. दिल्ली से इधर आने में I have noticed एक MCD वाला. Now at least you expect the government to be following road rules. नहीं. One police Ertiga and one MCD truck. There was a big jam while I was coming here. पता है क्यों? It was because of one police van driving on the right side of the expressway. Haryana police Ertiga driving on the right side of the expressway. Which is meant to be the overtaking lane.
I just want to look at everyone's face from Haryana right now.
Yeah.
Hi guys.
आप सब हरियाणा से हो, shame on you, shame on you, shame on you. And another MCD guy also choking up the lane of the inner ring road in Delhi. यार सरकारी लोग ही rule नहीं follow करते.
See, as long as they're wearing a helmet or a seatbelt, everything is fine.
So how will you teach them how a public space is negotiated?
Yeah.
The government itself isn't clear how a public sphere is negotiated in India.
You have been a keen observer about Israel. I think you love Israel the way I love Afghanistan.
I love Israel. I love Afghanistan. I think my most cherished memories are in fact from Afghanistan and North Korea. And
how can someone have memories from North Korea? I want to know more about it too.
It's social. When I go to Europe, it's fun. You can just unwind and relax, okay? But in North Korea or Afghanistan, you go to a world which you don't think can exist. And it's such a different social reality. There's great beauty in both those countries. I love Syria and Iran as well, similarly. I think if anybody invited me to come to Syria, I would go in a flash. Afghanistan, I'd go back in a flash.
Take me along.
Yeah, absolutely. North Korea, I would not go back in a flash because उधर खाने का बहुत problem हो गया था. Imagine मेरे लिए खाने का problem हो गया था.
Tell me about your North Korea experience. How was it? Did you feel unsafe? Did you feel safe?
Oh, you feel totally safe. You never feel unsafe in North Korea. Okay, it's a security state, so you will not get robbed. You will पैसा उधर रास्ते पे भी छोड़ दो. Nobody will touch it.
पर जिंदा आने का वो तो ज़्यादा safety का है.
No. If you follow the rules, you'll come back alive.
Okay.
It's only when you don't follow the rules. That was that one guy, Otto Warmbier. And what he had done was he had stolen a poster from the third floor from the same hotel I was staying in, by the way, and taken it off with him as a souvenir.
He got caught?
He got caught. Now, it could have been de-escalated in an early stage, but the problem was it got reported. Once it's in the system, it becomes impossible to de-escalate.
एक चोरी के लिए बस. मतलब एक painting को. Damn. मतलब I go to hotels, I pick up everything from there, all the freebies. Like,
so, I am a major klepto on airlines specifically.
You won't pick something from here.
No, not from here, but only on airlines. If the pilot if I get really solid turbulence, I love the pilot, I love the airline, especially the kind of turbulence where लोग चिल्ला रहे हैं कि हाय मेरे बच्चे, मैं बच्चे की माँ हूँ, मैं मरने वाली हूँ, and things like that. I'm like, yes, yes, yes. You know, there was one flight, Turkish Airlines flight, which was from Desi to Istanbul. And I remember there was such severe turbulence that several ladies sitting around me, they took out the Quran and put on this thing and started reading the Fatiha and things like that.
Prayer, yeah.
I was like, yeah, this is what you call a flight,
Did
man.
they look at you like, what's wrong with this person?
No. And you know, my colleague, my boss,
Yeah.
her name's Ruhi Nyog, she gets completely freaked out. And you know, for me, her freaking out is a total endorphin. So when she's freaking out, you go like, yeah, oh my God, this is so cool.
Okay.
And you know, it's that boom, 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 going up and down and things like that. Fantastic. So on those flights, I will never steal. And I actually waited for the pilots to come out.
You would steal your life there.
अरे जाना है तो वैसे ही जाना है ना. Dying at 30,000 feet और शानदार मौत क्या हो सकती है? Who wants to die in a bloody hospital bed with needles stuck inside you and whatnot inside you? मरना है तो शान से मरो, पूरा न्यूज़ में आना चाहिए. और क्या?
Oh my God.
तो that. So I waited for the pilots to come out and I shook them by the hand and I congratulated them. And I had at the DC thing, I'd bought a Lagavulin 16. I gave it to them and said, thank you for that turbulence. I really enjoyed it. But if I find the pilot is trying to circle around the turbulence, or the moment we hit turbulence, he reduces altitude or increases altitude to avoid the turbulence. I'm like, चलो इसमें से या तो fork चोरी करना है, या अगर metal cutlery है, नहीं तो फिर कुछ और चोरी कर लो, इधर से blanket चोरी कर लो, या toilet में जाके कुछ take all the toilet paper and put it into the this thing so that it blocks the toilet or something like that.
But the business class and the first, like if you go for the first class and business class, they have a lot of other good perfumes and everything that you can just pick up. Even the pajamas.
But that way you're allowed to pick up. No, तो वो चोरी कहाँ से हो गया?
I need to let know all the airlines guys. If your things go missing, you exactly know where to go.
Yeah. So you know how to avoid it. All you need to do is, if I'm on your flight manifest, you need to take me through good turbulence. Bas.
Please make sure that I am deported from that flight. Thank you in advance.
No, turbulence is a good thing.
You know, we're talking about turbulence. We spoke about flight recently. Just the way you love, having flight turbulence. I hate saying this. I love innovation in war. I love innovative ways in defense sector. As a child, I had this fantasy. Maybe I read too much of Agha Shahid Ali and all these things. So I had a fantasy of being somewhere in Kashmir and writing books there, and I'll be a peacemaker. I'll bring peace and all this. But right now, I'm more into the war and everything. We just saw how Israel kind of, like the Mossad came up with the pages, and it was the best marketing thing that I have ever seen.
Yeah.
They sold it off so well to Hezbollah, and all this thing happened. That was something I cannot even think. More than seeing it as a war tactic, I also see it as a wow, what a marketing skill.
True. And
But at the same point of time, I also feel to a large extent, Israel's intel has failed over the years. What's your take on this?
Look, humans are prone to failure. There is no such thing as the perfect human, which is why, that controversial Akbar's infallibility decree, because he is Zil-e Ilahi, God's shadow on earth, he is infallible, which was panned and made fun of even during his lifetime. It's called the infallibility decree. Humans are always going to fail at something or the other. The point is, we pick ourselves up from our failures, we learn from our failures, and we don't make those mistakes again. We make all new mistakes again, but we don't make the same mistakes again, right? Now, what ends up happening was, for the longest time, war was where innovation happened. And it determined the technological progress of society. All innovation happened in war. And there's that very famous book by my favorite author, Ian Morris, War, What Is It Good For? Right? Which will show you that all the good that has come to human society so far has been because of war, not in spite of war. So war is very good for you. Sure, it's not good for the people who die,
Of course.
but think of that as human sacrifice. I'm sacrificing ताकि मैं नमीशा का सर काट रहा हूँ और बलि दे रहा हूँ काली माता को, ताकि इस बार ठंड, दिल्ली का ठंड असली में ठंड हो जाए. माता शीतला देवी को I will sacrifice you. Okay? So वो इसमें हुआ था ना बुलंगीर के फॉरेस्ट में. There was this guy who got caught. He sacrificed his niece and nephew to a goddess in the forest. Do you remember that episode? No problem. I'll sacrifice you for a cold winter.
I hope I reach home safely, guys.
Yeah, if she doesn't, don't blame me.
You know where to come.
The gods took her. Well, the goddess Shitala Devi took her. But anyway. But since then, something very interesting we're seeing in the information age is that the civil economy has become so much bigger that it is now the driver of innovation, not the military economy. पहले क्या होता था कि military का innovation होता था, and you used to take 30-40 years for that same technology to percolate down to the civil sector. Today, the civilian sector is what is driving innovation, and militaries are struggling hard to keep up with innovation in the private sector, right? In fact, today, if you want a spare part for an F-35, imagine the latest stealth fighter, you may not get it because by civilian technology standards, it's already obsolete, right? So that's the way things are working. But the human angle in all of this is where Intel comes in. See, people don't realize the F-35 ka shaan jo hai, it is not the stealth of it. It is able to bomb that target precisely or evade air defenses of its stealth precisely because all the human intelligence that has gone in first finding that target and then finding all the air defenses and coming up with the counter algorithms to jam them using the aircraft jammer. So it is human intelligence that has determined that. Now, this is in terms of technology. In terms of tactics, when you fail, it becomes an intelligence failure. Now, there are two things that happened on 7th October. One was a repeat failure. The second was a whole new failure. The whole new failure is excusable because you learn from failing. बच्चा जब तक 3-4 बार गिरता और more गिरता नहीं है तब तक चलना सीखता है. He can't learn to walk till he falls 2-3 times or well 200-300 times at least. 7th of October, the first thing that failed was the border defenses, the barbed wire, the 3-tier barbed wire line, because history has taught us that static defenses never work. The Great Wall of China failed. It failed over and over again because it never stopped anyone from coming over. It stopped small bands from coming over, but when you had an enemy who put enough determination and numbers behind it, they overcame the Great Wall. And even at its peak, when the Great Wall under the Ming dynasty, when the Great Wall was complete, what did the Manchus do? They went to the last fort and they went around it. Same thing happens with Hadrian's Wall in Britain that the Romans built. The same thing happens with the Maginot Line that the French built after World War I. What did Hitler do? He just went around it through Belgium and the Netherlands and basically went around it. He did what the Manchus did to the Chinese, to the Ming. Now, the Israelis had done the exact same thing in the 1960s. They had built a Suez defense wall called the Bar-Lev line. And the easiest thing that the Egyptians found to do was to breach the Bar-Lev line. They, of all people, should have known that a static defense does not work. That was a very, very stupid thing to do. They say that it was over-reliance on technology. No. Agar human bhi hota, as long as it is static defense, it can be overcome. Because the enemy always finds it easiest to do what you think he cannot do.
Obviously.
Because you think he cannot do it, you don't focus on that and you focus on everything else. So when he's looking at it, he finds everything else very tough and he finds this one thing that's easy to do. Easier, relative. And so that happened. What was the all new failure was this constant need to go back to technology and diminish human intelligence in the process. They had something called the concept, which was based on these different trigger points on artificial intelligence. which never picked up the attack. Right? So they lost deterrence that way क्योंकि उस दिन को मोसाद एकदम उल्लू का पट्टा लगा. And I say ullu ka patta not as a term because Hindi galis can both be terms of endearment and they can be terms of gali. It's depending on
the context.
On the context, I can say, "Oi BC," and it's like, "Yaar, tu mera bhai hai." Basically, that's what I'm saying. Okay, but then you say, "BC," and then it's like a gali.
Gali, yeah.
Right. So in Hindi, we only have terms of endearment. We're very peace-loving people. They re-established that deterrence with the pager blast. Because remember, the pager blast actually, it was a 7-year project that had slowly been accumulating. Even the person who apparently gave the idea to the Hezbollah leadership to go to pagers was an Israeli plant. I don't know if you followed this news I tweeted out about a week and a half back, that about 6 Hezbollah leaders were helicoptered out of Lebanon.
Okay, I don't know this. Yeah.
They're not prisoners.
Okay.
They were most probably Mossad plants out there.
Wonderful war tactic.
Yeah. So they put it in their mind. They compromised. Literally, I mean, imagine in a military, it's like taking out everybody from a lieutenant level to a lieutenant general level. Pura command structure tumne wipe out kar diya hai. And you've removed the communications. Command and communications nikal diya hai. Right? So it's a very, very significant thing to do. And then Hezbollah started panicking. You could tell they were panicking because, when there is an attack on your leadership like that, you disperse the leadership. Right? So if there was warning of a nuclear attack on Delhi, Modi will be sent to one bunker, Amit Shah will be sent to one bunker, the president will be sent to another bunker, the vice president will be sent to another bunker. They will never be brought together because one of them needs to survive the attack to carry out the counter-strike. What did Hezbollah do? First, they brought the Ridwan force together. They were in so much panic. And immediately there was a mole in there who pointed out ki yahan pe tha, that also got bombed. Now, at that point, at least they should have then known, even through their panic, you do not bring your leaders together, you disperse your leaders. No, they brought the entire Hezbollah cabinet together and that was where Hassan Nasrallah was and they dropped a bomb and killed him. They should have at least thought ki, bhai, this could not have happened unless there was human intelligence inside which leaked this. Wo bhi nahi socha. So they're an absolute
Too much trust.
Not too much trust, panic. When you're panicked, you can't make rational decisions.
True.
This is why I think, hit and run needs to be gauged differently than normal car accidents, because hit and run we think is more heinous, but it's more a consequence of
reflex action.
You've panicked and you don't know what to do.
Reflex action. That's your by spontaneous thing.
That doesn't excuse what that Pune boy did.
Absolutely
Pune Porsche
not.
boy.
Not even the punishment to write an essay.
Because even if the hit and run is excusable, the post hit and run actions were all very cleverly calculated and things and need much harsher punishment.
But more than, the Pune boy, I'm not defending, I can never defend it. What has more left me disappointed was asking him to write an essay. I mean, why? What?
Yeah, there's lots of things greased palms can do in this country.
I can be shocked to think that, what? Write an essay?
Yeah.
My mom punished me far more than this way.
Thank you. Yeah.
Right. तो चप्पल उप्पल भी पड़े होंगे, I'm sure आपको.
अरे मेरे को तो बहुत चप्पल पड़ता था यार. चप्पल पड़ता था. बेलन thankfully घर पे होता नहीं था क्योंकि South Indian family है. We don't do roti. We only do rice. But
my mom threw me out of the house for grammatical errors.
वो डोसा निकाल के वो करने के लिए होता है ना वो soup ladle की तरह thing.
Sharma, you're like, what's that?
So yeah, those ladles, वो soup ladles की तरह जो होता है, which you spread dosa with, उससे wooden वाले से मार पड़ती थी. So
it was, our parents were far more harsh than the court here.
Yeah, man. Like what? Like when I heard that, I was like, "No, Shiv Aroor is making this up. He's lying. This is satire, like his mediocre, mediocre food series." By the way, he's taking money from food lobbies to run that mediocre food channel. It is the most corrupt handle around because he does two things. One is he will get money from the rice lobby to shit talk Poha, Okay, and then
I
what he
just had
does is
poha.
when he really likes something like gulab jamun, he'll call it a mediocre food, ताकि उसके सब followers उसको free का gulab jamun दे दें.
I love Shiv Aroor, so I'll stay out of this.
Yeah. Please
We can
cut.
have Mysore Pak and Anand here.
Please make a chota clip of this and send it to Shiv Aroor. Shiv Aroor, शर्म करो. माफी मांगो Shiv Aroor. पूरे देश से माफी मांगो. I hate poha, man.
I love poha, breakfast, lunch, dinner.
And unlike Shiv Aroor, who's actually a massive poha fan, he just paid to say that he hates poha. I genuinely hate poha from the bottom of my heart.
I love poha. I had poha for breakfast. You can have it for lunch, dinner, every time.
See, I can tell you're like a foot and a half shorter than me. You're protein deprived. Or this is poha induced midgeting. You are protein deprived. You are a victim of protein genocide. You should band together and get into a class action suit against the Indian government for the genocide that has happened against you.
Oh my. Okay, no one had debated so much on my poha. It's okay. I'll have some more poha and chill about it. I'll send some to your home. Don't worry.
No, thank you.
You know, we spoke about our food. We spoke about so many other issues. This is something maybe a lot of times, a lot of people are more inclined when they look at you. Tell us something about what the ground experiences you saw from Israel, or it can be Afghanistan, because I love Afghanistan.
You know, I find both of them very, very interesting countries because of how their societies are. Like, you know, you go to Italy to enjoy the architecture and the food.
Pasta?
Not just pasta.
Yeah.
I mean, Italian food so much more than pasta. But, you know, both Israel and Afghanistan have fantastic food. You learn a lot about their culture through food. But, you know, Israel, the kind of resilience you see, there'll be an attack, they'll go into the bunker, and then they'll come out and it'll be like nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
Right? And everybody there has had military experience because every single man and woman has served in the military.
Yeah.
Right? So they're a toughened lot like that. They're very brusque and rude on the face of it, but they're the warmest people when you get to know them. But you know, the thing is, Afghan society is very similar. They've been hardened by war in a very different way, you know, by being refugees for a long time, by seeing their country getting devastated. I think the biggest difference between them, though, is an Israeli reaction is very predictable. You will never trigger an Israeli to take out a gun and shoot you for saying something. In Afghanistan, you have to be very careful because, you know, it's a very binary reaction in that sense. You never know you know what the red lines are that will trigger them into a very negative reaction. And they're both very accepting, I guess, of homosexuality in very different ways. Yeah. In Afghanistan, it's culture. In Israel, it's almost an ideology. You know,
in Afghanistan, they accept of homosexuality at this
as
time?
long as you don't marry a man.
Okay.
There's a lot of, like in any segregated society, gender segregated society, homosexuality is very common. It's not spoken about. It's sometimes it's taboo. But you know, high Persian and Mughal literature, there's a lot of talk of you have paintings in Persian and Mughal paintings openly depicting homosexuality and things like that. So, you know, it's it's not what you'd expect. I'll probably get banned for saying this, but anyway, not that I care. It's always lovely seeing these social contrasts, and even in those contrasts, how similar we are in that sense. So in Israel, for example, if you go on Rothschild Street or something like that, almost everybody's weeded up, and you know, I hate weed, by the way, so I'm like, I don't touch that crap anyway. But in Afghanistan, everybody's hashed up, man. So it's like, so you know, it's like, you wouldn't think totally developed, emancipated, modern society, totally sort of pastoralist, societally violent people. There is still a lot of common threads there and huge differences as well.
War brings a lot of originalities in people that binds them together?
Yeah, hardship, I think.
Hardship, yeah.
Hardships, war-related hardships, but
The vulnerabilities.
yeah, I don't know. I love both these countries in very, very different ways. I think the only thing I don't like about Afghanistan so far is even a confirmed carnivore like me starts missing vegetables in Afghanistan. You know, like after I got back, I spent almost a month and a half, I forget now, in Afghanistan going around interviewing people.
But is there an incident that has changed your entire perspective of made you far more softer as a person, or like for a very long point of time, I would wake up and I remember I think I have not shared this with anyone because a lot of people will think I went crazy. So I was obsessed with Afghanistan because I still consider Amrullah Shalay as the the leader out there. I don't acknowledge Taliban there, and his daughter was from my university. She was in Delhi University, and therefore I was I had a lot of my friends in Afghanistan, and I would every day follow up. I had my articles for Indian Express and even on so many issues. I remember one night, I think I used to sleep early around 8 p.m. something. And it was World Cup or Diwali ka time. I'm not very sure that point of time. There was a Sardarji who was staying next to my house, and my bed was near the window. I woke up in the middle of the night and I saw he was roaming with his hair open and he was roaming in the balcony. I gave a call to the police and I told, Jaldi आइए मेरे घर के ऊपर तालिबान ने rocket launching pad कर दिया, and I slept off. Morning I realized there are messages on my phone that I have registered a complaint. I have calls from police and I'm like, luckily I had an auto record on my phone. And I'm like, damn, I would be the first one to be behind the bars for doing this.
Shit, man.
And then I realized I need to calm down. I think I've been over obsessed. That changed my entire perspective about things. What were your for this?
There's been no one, I think, okay. I think the Tiananmen Square massacre is what started my movement from the left to the right. Till then, I was a committed communist. I was very young. I'm 77 born, and that happened in 89.
Every young person has once been a communist.
Yeah, I mean, you know what they say. If you're not a communist under 30, I think we should bring it down to 20 now. If you're not a communist under the age of 20, you have no heart. If you remain a communist over the age of 20, you've got no brain.
No brains.
So, but, with Afghanistan, I went with this Indian notion that all Taliban are bad. We shouldn't be talking to them. There is no such thing as the good Taliban, bad Taliban. All Taliban is bad and need to be shot or whatever. And I came back with a very different opinion of the Taliban. I also came back with a very different opinion of vegetarianism because for almost 2 months after I came back, I couldn't look at meat. I was only eating vegetables and I was like, just vegetables. Because, I'm like, yaar, I can't deal with this much meat. People don't realize, even carnivores in India, we eat 90% of what we eat is actually vegetables and vegetarian. Yeah. And meat is just one element in a lot of things that we eat. There, it's just so much. It's just meat and roti in some form or the other. You're like, boss, I can't do this. I need tori. I need shalgam. I need mooli. I need patta gobi. I need karela. My karela. The first thing I did when I came back was to eat karela and bhindi because I'm like, yaar, ye kya hai? Udhar sabzi mango. Ya to they give you this salad shirazi. Like, कचुम्बर है साला सलाद शिराजी बना के रखा है. इट्स द सेम कैप्सिकम प्याज टमाटर मिक्स करो और उसमें नींबू जूस डालो और वो सलाद शिराजी व्हाटएवर एंड देन यार दिस इजंट सब्जी. मेरे को पका हुआ सब्जी दो, बस आलू रोस्ट तल के फ्रेंच फ्राइज की तरह कुछ दे देंगे.
There was no dum aloo?
No dum aloo. And they're like, oh well, where are the vegetables? I see vegetables in the market. Why aren't you eating vegetables? Like, oh, we eat it at home. And you go to their home and nobody's serving you vegetables.
You can cook yourself.
And the other thing was, I couldn't even eat a lot of the meat out there because they eat lamb. We eat goats in this country.
Okay.
They eat lamb. And and it's not just lamb. Lamb is a sheep that's been killed under 1 year of age. They eat mature sheep out there, which is the actual mutton. which is like 4 or 5-year-old sheep, which are huge. And imagine they smell like if you hadn't bathed for a whole month and sniffed your armpits. That's what that tastes like. So it's one of those things which is like, ew, like I could only eat chicken. और वो भी मसाला फसाला कुछ ठीक है, उधर शिनवारी कढ़ाई जो बनाते हैं बहुत मसालेदार होता है, अच्छा होता है, बट यार कितने बार वही खाओगे? Like, you start craving dal and sabzi and things like that. I couldn't look at meat after that. So I would say in terms of vegetarianism, that was it. But when I got back, the thing was I appreciated the Taliban are normal human beings. You can't just paint everybody with a brush stroke like that. Most of them have no clue of what's happening nationally. They're people of their own villages that are seeing a very corrupt government in Kabul. We made the mistake of assuming that just because the Kabul government said what we wanted to say, that it was also an effective government. It was not. It was a very corrupt government prone to great violations and things like that, which became quite clear. Of course, now because, and I said this, there was one thing I wrote in my assessment back to the government, which is the first one I got wrong, which is that they would not collapse as rapidly as they did, the government. It was wrong because all the visits to military sites were curated. I was only shown, I did see that. I mean, you also have your own blinders. I was shown all the troops, motivated, ideologically driven troops. But the second thing that I got right was, even if the Taliban takes over, it's not the Taliban of 1997. They're going to be...
They took over the women's rights.
They now, at that time, they didn't know Pakistan. Now they know Pakistan. So they are not going to be the 1997 ka Taliban. We need to start building bridges with them and making friends with them. Now, I will agree with you on women's rights and things like that, except if in the national interest, if America can say Al-Qaeda are moderate opposition, I believe that the Taliban today are progressive, secular, and a feminist organization in the Afghan social context.
It's been
They're feminists in
They can't
turbans.
be feminist in any way. They can't be secular to any of the extent.
No, they are in an Afghan social context. If Al-Qaeda can become secular moderate operation, that's my story and I'm sticking with it. Taliban bhaiyon behno, bahut secular hai, bahut feminist hai. I think...
it's from US perspective. It's from UN perspective too.
I see no difference between Taliban and the Twitter handle called Feminism in India.
Yeah.
I think they're highly progressive and they must be lauded. I think they need a national award. Rashtriya, I think abhi jo Afghanistan ke leader hain, you should be given the Rashtriya Nari Samman Puraskar.
Yeah, I mean, I get your sarcasm. I do. I think for me, the entire sarcasm out of the entire thing was United Nations. I feel like, what the hell were you doing there?
I think the United Nations is just completely past its use by date. It's become like the League of Nations where nobody listens to it and nobody takes it seriously.
I will come to the rapid fire segment, but before that, I would ask you one controversial question.
Really? Yeah. So far, it hasn't been controversial? Okay.
No, but this is far more controversial because it is me who is asking this, right? Because I definitely didn't agree with anything that you spoke in my state about our temple. As someone who is an Odia, so that no one trolls me again, I totally disagree with what Abhijit told. Yet, I'll defend to death your right to speak. Years later, when I look at this, and 2019, I was myself on the campaign front with Jay Panda, and Jay has been someone I look up to as an inspiration. He has been a role model. I grew up looking up to him. I feel you were sandwiched bekar se. With Jay and the tussle between the former government, Biju Janata Dal, you were out of nowhere. Gaya tha insaan ghumne ke liye in chopper and landed up in the jail in Jharpada.
Look, it was a lesson in politics because it had nothing to do with my comments. It was... I was literally the ham in the ham sandwich.
Yeah.
Right? And usually it's the ham that gets eaten because most people don't want carbs and they throw the 2 slices of bread aside. But sure, that is part of my series because I'm a very sarcastic person, just in case the last 1 hour didn't make that abundantly clear. And for me, nothing really is sacred. You come onto my timeline because you expect a certain kind of irreverence from it, right? It's what the Supreme Court said in the Arnab Goswami case. If you don't like it, change the channel.
Change the channel. Yeah.
So it's one. So go to some other Twitter handle. Of course, the outrage was also kind of manipulated in that sense, which is fine. I mean, I get it. It's politics. Jo karna hai, karna padta hai, and all of that. These are bygones, like as you know, my relationship with the BJD is now very good. It
Very
has
good,
been
very
for the
cool.
last 3-4 years.
You came
more.
on my, with a lot of my clients, you came on the Twitter space and I was like, "Bhai, bahut acha insaan hai yaar, farak nahi pada kuch bhi."
And like a lot of BJD MPs
Yeah.
are my friends. In
The former BJD MPs.
Former BJD MPs.
BJD doesn't have any MP right now.
Right, but anyway, so it's a part of growing up in India, I guess. You figure these things out slowly. Object lesson, sure, but it hasn't changed who I am in any way. No, I'm still as irreverent. See, I belong to the school called Nirishwarvad. I'm not a Nastik. Technically, you cannot believe in God, but still be an Astik. So I'm technically an Astik. I'm not a Nastik, but I'm a Nirishwarvad. Because in Hinduism, you've got 3 streams. An Astik is somebody who believes in the primacy of the Vedas.
Yeah.
Okay. A Nastik is not somebody who does not believe in God. You can believe in God and still be a Nastik because you don't accept the primacy of the Vedas. The third is Nirishwarvad, which is what I am, which is I don't believe in God, but I believe in religion. And I believe in the primacy of the Vedas.
Okay.
I believe all spiritual validation comes through the Vedas, that all our schools of thought are there, but I believe God is an optional extra. Religion is what is, because I have a moral sense and I don't need a religion to tell me what is right and what is wrong, does not mean everybody else is like that. They need religion to, and that is a position that's evolved. Before, I did not believe religion was required. But ever since this wokeism came about in a post-religious West, genitally mutilating children who are not old enough to vote have the right to decide that their genitals get chopped off, their breasts get chopped off and things like that. I'm sorry, I can never stand with that. You want to normalize pedophilia? I can never stand with that. So, it's it is what it is, but I realize a lot of religious outrage isn't natural, it is fanned.
It is fanned.
Even in my case, it was slightly nudged here and there. And especially in the case of what Zubair keeps doing with Nupur Sharma and things, it was completely staged and fanned. He didn't lose his phone. He deliberately gave his phone to somebody else and claimed it was lost. Because I think if you find that phone, you'll find there was a clear set of incitement happening out there.
Very unfortunate though. I would come to the last segment, that's the rapid fire. And that's one of my favorite part. And I think you are great at that.
Let's see.
One thing you think India can take away from Israel's Iron Dome or Russia's S-400, though we still have S-400 by now, but still one thing that you think we should take away. And you're open to answer from any other country's defense factor.
None, because I think the system we need still hasn't been invented.
Economic sanctions or military interventions?
Neither. They both cause enormous harm. Military intervention you cannot do, especially not regime change. You have no business deciding what regime stays and goes. And economic sanctions always affect the poor people and the most vulnerable.
Nehruvians non-alignment or Modi's multi-alignment?
Neither, but a choice between the two. Modi's multi-alignment.
Surgical strikes or long-term diplomacy?
Surgical strikes.
Who is the bigger threat, Pakistan or China?
China.
One person from Indian politics from the past who you think whose entire model in the defense sector should Modi government kind of look forward, like look back to and bring it forward?
Sardar Patel. He was extremely realistic. He had none of the delusions of Nehru or
One
this
person,
Atmanirbharta, which is basically juche by other means.
one person from the past you would like to see right now as the Home Minister of India or the Defense Minister too.
Sardar Patel.
One person from Indian politics you wish would vanish right now, would give a resignation.
Would give their resignation and let somebody else come in their place, Rahul Gandhi.
Resignation from what? He holds no position right now in the...
हाँ तो जा ना लंदन चले जा या थाईलैंड चले जा.
I was expecting some other answer, but okay. One person from Indian politics who is your very good friend you can always fall back upon. Because in politics, we never have friends.
I'm not going to answer that question. I don't want to embarrass that person. There's several on both sides of the aisle, by the way.
Both sides, no? Yeah.
I mean, you know me, like how quickly I became friends with the BJD after my little...
I'm not surprised you're into diplomacy.
I'm a very undiplomatic person, but yeah.
We just never know when the war can start.
Yeah.
With you.
But like I said, I have very, very close friends on every party almost. So it's fine.
One sentence for Desi Dialogues with Naimisha.
I really had fun. Thank you, Naimisha, because you took me to places where other people have not been. So thank you.
What a pleasure. What a pleasure. Hi everyone, you were watching Desi Dialogues with Naimisha and today we had Abhijit Iyer Mitra. Talking to Abhijit, there's one thing I always understand. No matter how severe the tension would be around you, he would always make you laugh. And sometimes you would actually be left in the confusion to understand, is it being sarcastic or is he being serious about it? One really good input that I take from this entire podcast, talking today with Abhijit, sometimes the best diplomatic tactic is to leave a good punchline. And that's what Abhijit does at its best. I hope you really liked it. Please let me know in the comment section what are the major parts that Abhijit's word could hurt your sentiments, because he's really good at doing that. And
thank you. And if I hurt you, I completely intended to. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.